It started with a purchase so ordinary that no one could have imagined how it would end. A man walking into a second-hand shop and walking out with a porcelain doll. Daniel Briggs was not a collector of antiques. He wasn't even particularly fond of dolls. But on a gray Saturday morning, while wandering through a cramped second-hand shop on the outskirts of town, he saw her. The doll sat on a dusty shelf, slightly tilted, her porcelain face pale and cracked with hairline fractures. Her glass eyes were pale blue, fixed in that eternal stare that antique dolls often had. She wore a faded white dress, its lace yellowed with time. Something about her made Daniel stop. "She just came in yesterday," the old shopkeeper muttered, noticing Daniel's gaze. "From an estate sale. Belonged to a woman who died recently. Been in her family for generations." Daniel lifted the doll carefully. She was heavier than he expected, almost cold to the touch. For reasons he couldn't quite explain, he felt compelled to take her home. His wife Claire would probably find it creepy, but their 6-year-old daughter Emily might love it. So he bought the doll, carried her home, and placed her on a shelf in Emily's bedroom. That was the beginning. At first, there was nothing unusual. Emily was delighted, naming the doll Annabelle, a name that made Claire grimace. "She's creepy, Dan. Why would you bring that thing into the house?" Claire whispered that night. Daniel laughed it off. "It's just a doll. Emily loves her. What's the harm?" But within a week, things began to happen. Small things, so subtle that they could be dismissed. Emily's other toys, stuffed animals, dolls, action figures, were found scattered on the floor each morning, though Daniel was sure they'd been tidied the night before. A toy car rolled slowly across the living room floor when no one was near it. Once, Daniel swore he heard faint footsteps in the hallway past midnight, the patter of something small moving quickly. But when he checked, the house was silent, and Emily was fast asleep with Annabelle propped neatly against her pillow. Then Emily began talking to the doll at night. Not unusual for a child, Daniel thought. But one night, while passing by his daughter's room, he froze. He heard two voices. One was Emily's soft whisper. The other was lower, raspier, and distinct. He opened the door quickly, but Emily was alone, her eyes wide. "Daddy," she said calmly, "Annabelle told me not to open the door when you knock." Daniel's stomach dropped. The atmosphere in the house began to change. Claire complained that she heard noises at night, clicking sounds like tiny wooden limbs tapping against the floorboards. Sometimes they both heard whispers in rooms they weren't in. Emily, once cheerful and bubbly, grew pale and quiet. She insisted that all her toys were alive, that they moved when adults weren't looking. "They have meetings," she explained one morning at breakfast, staring down at her cereal. "They talk to Annabelle, and Annabelle tells them what to do." Claire looked at Daniel sharply. "She's 6, Dan. This isn't cute, it's disturbing." But the more they tried to question Emily, the more she shut down. She began locking her bedroom at night, saying, "They don't like when it's open, it makes them angry." By now, Daniel was deeply unsettled. He started keeping watch late at night, sitting in the living room with the lights off, listening. And one night, he saw it. At 2:47 a.m., the silence was broken by a scraping noise. He looked up and froze. In the faint glow of the moonlight, he saw Emily's stuffed bear crawling across the hallway floor. Not dragged, not pushed, crawling. Its limbs bent and twisted unnaturally as it scuttled toward Emily's room. Daniel shot to his feet, his pulse thundering, but when he flipped on the light, the bear was motionless, lying flat on the carpet. He picked it up with trembling hands, staring at its button eyes. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. The following weeks were a blur of dread. Toys appeared in strange places, lined up in neat rows at the foot of the bed, stacked like pyramids on the kitchen table. Daniel and Claire locked them in the closet one night, only to find the closet open and every toy back in Emily's room by morning. The family cat, Murphy, went missing. Days later, Emily whispered at the dinner table, "They didn't like Murphy. He saw too much. Annabelle said they had to make him quiet." Claire broke down crying. "Dan, we have to get rid of that thing. Burn it, throw it away. I don't care." But when Daniel tried, he couldn't. The night he carried Annabelle into the garage with the intent to destroy her, he felt paralyzed. His arms went rigid, his chest tightened, and he heard, clear as day, a voice in his head whisper, "Put me back, Daniel." And he did. He placed the doll back on Emily's shelf, drenched in cold sweat. Emily stopped being Emily. She barely spoke to her parents, only to Annabelle and the toys. Her drawings at school turned dark, pictures of dolls surrounding the family, stick figures of her parents with X's for eyes. Her teacher called one afternoon, concerned. "Emily told me something strange. She said her toys want her mommy and daddy to go away forever." Daniel and Claire pulled Emily aside that night, desperate to reach her. "Sweetheart, we're worried. You've been acting different." Emily tilted her head, expressionless. "You don't need to worry. Annabelle takes care of me now." The room grew unnaturally cold. It happened on a stormy night in late November. Rain pounded the windows. Wind rattled the shutters. Neighbors later reported hearing strange noises, high-pitched laughter, faint tapping sounds like dozens of little feet moving at once. But no one called the police. Not yet. Inside the Briggs house, every light went out at once. The power cut, plunging the rooms into darkness. Daniel lit a candle and moved cautiously through the hallway, his heart hammering. Claire clutched his arm, whispering, "Where's Emily?" They pushed open Emily's bedroom door. The candlelight flickered across the walls. What they saw froze them in place. Every toy Emily owned, dolls, bears, cars, blocks, was standing upright in perfect formation, circling the bed. Their glass eyes and plastic smiles glistened in the candlelight. On the bed sat Emily, pale and blank-eyed, with Annabelle in her lap. "They've decided," Emily said in a flat voice. "It's time." The toys turned their heads toward Daniel and Claire, and they moved. No one knows exactly what happened next. The Briggs family was never seen again. When police finally entered the house 3 days later, they found no sign of Daniel, Claire, or Emily. The only traces were unsettling. Emily's bedroom was immaculate, the bed neatly made, the shelves tidy. Every single toy was gone. Not a single stuffed animal, doll, or figure remained. On the living room wall, faintly scratched into the plaster, were 4 words: "We took them home." The case remains unsolved. Neighbors moved away. The house stands empty, though some swear they hear faint giggles and the sound of small feet scurrying inside late at night. And sometimes, in that second-hand shop on the outskirts of town, a porcelain doll appears briefly on a dusty shelf, pale, cracked, and staring, before vanishing again.